Hello and welcome to this session in which we're going to be working in Chapter 6, Discounted Cash Flow, and now we're moving into the last section of this chapter, which is loan types and loan amortization. So in this session, we're going to look at the different loan types that a lender, which is a banker usually, doesn't have to be a banker, but a financial institution would give you, and we're going to look at loan amortization. And the loan types are basically based on our present value knowledge. So you're going to see this present value topic will appear for the next maybe 8 chapters, okay? So let's start by looking at the loans and how do loans work and the type of different loans that we have. And we're going to look at each one of them separately and discuss them in detail. So whenever a lender extends a loan, some provision will be made for repayment of the principal, obviously the original amount. Of course, when a bank gives you a loan, what they want, they're gonna draft an agreement telling you what should you be paying, when should you be paying it back, so on and so forth. A loan might be repaid in equal installment. So for example, you take out a loan and your payments will be the same, for example, 3 payments, or it might be repaid in a single sum, or you take out a loan and the full amount is paid only once. Because the way the principal and interest are paid is up to the parties involved. There are actually a limited number of possibilities. But those are the kind of the 2 possibilities. Either you make payments, and sometimes the payments could be only interest, and we're going to look at those type of loans. Sometimes it's interest and principal, and sometimes you only pay the whole thing at once, interest plus principal. So again, there's unlimited number of possibilities. In this section, we describe a few forms of repayment that come up quite often. So we're going to look at the most common types of loans, and more complicated forms can usually be built up from these. So basically, we're going to look at the 3 basic forms of loans, which are pure discount loans, interest-only loans, and amortized loans. Now, based on these loans, this structure, the lender and the borrower may work up additional details. Working with these loans is very straightforward application of the present value principle that we have already developed. So we're going to start with the pure discount loan. And what is a pure discount loan? And maybe you heard of this term, maybe you haven't. But if you took financial accounting, you should know what is a pure discount loan is. A pure discount loan is when you go to the bank and you want to borrow, let's assume $100,000. That's how much you want to borrow. What happens is the bank will make you sign a promise to pay them back $100,000, but today they will give you $95,000. So what they do, they gave you a discount loan. So they gave you today $95,000 of the amount that's needed, but when you pay back $100,000. So simply put, they're charging you $5,000 interest. So the discount, basically they discount the loan. So this is basically what it is, but let's read a little bit more around it. The pure discount loan is the simplest form of loan. With such a loan, the borrower receives the money today and repays a single sum at some point in the future. A 1-year, 10% pure discount loan would require the borrower to repay $110 in 1 year for every dollar borrowed. That's fine. Because a pure discount loan is so simple, we already know how to value one. Suppose a borrower was able to repay $25,000 in 5 years. So you go to the bank and you tell the bank, I want a loan, and here's what I can do. I can pay you back $25,000 5 years from now. Okay? Now the bank's going to determine how much they should give you today. Oh, hold on a second. We already learned about this. This is a present value calculation. You told them you can pay, this is the future value, and this is the present value today. And we already know it's 5 years. And the bank wants to charge you 12%. So all we have to do is take 25,000 divided by 1 plus r raised to the t, which is 25,000 divided by 1.12 raised to the 5th power, and that's when all things are done, they will give you today 14,186, and it's worth confirming this number. So the bank will give you today 14,186, and you repay them later on 25,000. Let's confirm this, 14,186. So 14 186. So here's what's going to happen. This loan, it's going to grow. The bank is earning 12% per year. Let's see if that's the case. So after a year, your loan is $15,888. This is after year one. Year two, the loan balance will be, so you're going to take the previous balance and we're going to charge that 1.12, not 1.1. The interest rate is 1.12, 12%. Year three, the previous amount times 1.12. Interest is being earned on interest. Year four, it's the previous amount times 1.12. And year five, the loan should grow to $25,000, and this is when you pay back the loan. Indeed, $25,000. Now, what did the bank do? The bank earned 12% over a 5-year period. So I just showed it to you as a proof that it works. It works. Pure discount loan are common when the loan is short term, say a year or less. This is when you use usually pure discount loan. In recent years, they have become increasingly common for longer period loans, but usually they are for short term. A very common use of the discount loan is U.S. government when they sell treasury bills. When the U.S. government borrows money on a short-term basis, usually a year or less, it does so by selling what's called T-bill for short-term or treasury bill. So how does the treasury bill work? A treasury bill is a promise by the government to repay a fixed amount at some time in the future, for example, 3 months or 12 months. The treasury bill are pure discount loan. If a T-bill promised to pay $10,000 in 12 months and the market rate is 7%, how much will you pay for this bill in the market? So here's what's going to happen. Today, the government said, I'll pay you back $10,000 a year from today. Your interest rate is 7%. How much will you pay for this? What's the present value? And this is for 1 year. Well, we need to find out the present value. You will take the $10,000, the future value, divided by 1.07, and you will pay $9,345.79. This is how much you'll pay for this T-bill. And this is how usually the government borrows money. They sell you a discounted note, and this is called the face value. The 10,000 is called the face value. Then you cash your note at face value. So those are the type of notes that are considered pure discount. The next type of loans we look at is interest-only loan. And what is interest-only loan? It's a loan where you make payments, but the payments are only for interest. So when you make payments, you are only paying back the interest. You are not paying any principal. When do you pay the principal? You'll pay the principal at the end of the loan. So basically, you borrowed money today, and you might have to make 1, 2, 3, 4 payments. And all these payments are interest. Then you pay plus the principal at the end of the loan. Okay? So this is interest-only loan. In the real world, those type of deals are with bonds, corporate bonds. When U.S. corporations issue bonds, what they do, the buyer of the bonds receive only interest. So the company pays only interest until the bond matured, then they pay the principal. Okay, so let's take a look at this type of loans, interest-only loans. A second type of loan repayment plan calls for the borrower to pay interest each period and to repay the principal amount, which is the original amount, at some point in the future. Loans with such repayment are also called interest-only loans. Okay, notice if there's just one period, a pure discount loan and an interest loan are the same, of course, because you pay everything all at once. So let's look at an example. For example, with a 3-year 10% interest-only loan of a $10,000, the borrower will pay $100 in interest at the end of the first and second year. So here's what happened. So we have a $1,000 loan at 10%. So this loan will pay $100 every year. Okay, it's a 3-year loan. At the end of the 3rd year, the borrower would repay. So every year they're going to pay you 100, and the last year they're going to pay you 100 plus the whole amount. Okay, so notice interest, interest, interest. Okay, at the 3rd year, the borrower would return the $1,000 along the $100 interest. At this, which the same as 50-year interest-only loan would call for the borrower to pay the interest every year for the next 50 years, then repay the principal amount. In the extreme, the borrower pays the interest every period forever and never repays any principal. And this is called a perpetuity. And they do exist. As I said, the UK government, they have bonds that goes into perpetuity. In the US, most corporate bonds, as I stated earlier, most US corporate bonds have the general form of interest-only loan. So when corporations borrow money, what they do is they might borrow $10 million. They might borrow $10 million. That pays 10% annually, which is 1 million a year in interest. And what they do every year, they'll pay 1 million to the lender, 1 million. Let's make it 5-year loan, 1 million. Then at the end of 5 years, they're going to pay also the 10 million. So this is what the bond would look like, which we'll talk about bonds much more in details. We have one whole chapter, but I want you to start to think about it, basically plant the seeds that bonds are interest-only loans, okay? Because we will considering bonds in some, that's what I just said. In the future, we will defer further discussion. Yes, we will do that. We'll talk about bonds later on. Another type of loans, which is the most common even for individual, is what we call amortized loan. And what's basically amortized loan? Basically, amortized loan is when you are making payment, and the payment consists of both principal and interest. Now, when you buy a car or when you buy a home, you're going to be making payments. You're going to be making payments. And the payment will consist of interest. Some of it is interest, and some of it principal. And this is what this is the loans that we're going to be dealing with. And this is the most common loans for individuals, okay? With pure discount or interest only, the principal is repaid all at once. An alternative method is the amortized loan, with which the lender may require the borrower to repay part of the loan over time. The process of providing for a loan to be paid off by making regular principal reduction is called amortized loan. So this is the loan where you make payments, and some of it goes toward the principal, some of it goes toward the interest. A simple way of amortizing a loan is to have the borrower pay the interest each period plus some fixed amount. This approach is common with medium-term loan business. For example, suppose a business take a $5,000 5-year loan at 9%. So here's the deal. The loan agreement calls for the borrower to repay interest on the loan balance each year and to reduce the loan balance each year by $1,000. So the deal is you pay the interest on the principal, plus you bring down the balance by $1,000. So the interest will change every year, but you have to pay the principal, which is $1,000. In this case, we are considering, notice that the total payment will decline each year, of course, because the principal is declining, therefore the interest is declining. The reason is that the loan balance goes down, resulting in lower interest charge every year, whereas the $1,000 reduction is constant. So every year, your balance will start at $5,000, then it's going to become $4,000 because you pay $1,000, then it's going to become $3,000, it's going to become $2,000, it's going to become $1,000. So your interest is a function of your principal. As your principal goes down, your interest will go down. Okay. For example, the interest in the first year will be 5,000 times 9% will be $450. So year one, you have to pay the principal amount of $1,000 plus you have to pay $450 in interest. So your first payment is $1,450. In the second year, the loan balance is $4,000. Why? Because the balance went down by $1,000. So the interest is 4,000 times 9%, which is $360. So you have to pay $1,360. You have to pay $1,000 in principal and $360 in payment. Then this logic will follow. And this loan amortization table will show us what this looks like. So the loan balance will start at $5,000. The first payment is $1,450. Once again, why $1,450? $450 is interest. Where did it came from? Well, it's the loan balance, 5,000 times 9%, that's $450, plus you have to pay $1,000 in principal. That's where the $1,450 came from. So $450 is interest, $1,000 is principal. What happened to your balance? Your balance went down. Now your balance is $4,000. We're going to take 4,000 times 9%. It's going to be $360. So you are required to pay $360 in interest, plus you are required to pay $1,000 flat to reduce your balance. Now your balance down to $3,000. The third year, your balance is $3,000. You have to pay a 9% interest. That's $270. So notice, your interest is going down. Your interest expense is going down. And this makes sense because your principal, the ending balance, is going down as well. So at the end of the loan, you would have paid $1,350 in interest. You paid the principal, which is $5,000, so your total payment is $6,350. So notice in each year, the interest paid is given by the beginning balance multiplied by the interest rate. Also notice that the beginning balance is given by the ending balance from the prior year. Of course, your ending balance becomes your beginning balance. Probably the most common way of amortizing a loan is to have the borrower make a single fixed payment every period. Almost all consumer loans, such as car loans and mortgage, work this way. Usually, when you have a car loan, you'll make the same payment, like $500, $500, $500. Then this payment is broken down into principal and interest. For example, suppose our 5-year 9% $5,000 loan was amortized this way. How would the amortization schedule would look like? So now we're going to look at the more conventional loan where you make a single sum. So first, what we have to do in these loans is to find the payment. So first you have to find the payment. Okay. So how can you find the payment? Well, it's the same thing that we learned earlier. You could either use a financial calculator to find the payment, or you can use the formula. Okay. First, you need to find the payment. From our discussion earlier, we know that this loan cash flow are in the form of an ordinary annuity. Therefore, you would use the ordinary annuity calculation, which is the present value equal to the payment. So you're looking for C times 1 minus the present value ordinary annuity divided by R. So once all said and done, your payment is $1,285.46. Now this payment, it's going to be constant, and it's going to be, some of it's going to be principal and some of it will be interest and principal. Okay, so the borrower will make 5 equal payments. Okay, will this pay off the loan? We will check once we complete the amortization schedule. In our previous example, we know the principal reduction each year. We then calculated the interest owed to get the total payment. In this example, which is different, so be careful when you're completing the homework, we know the total payment. We will thus calculate the interest, then subtract it from the total payment to calculate the principal portion. Now what we have to find out too, we have to find out the interest. And whatever doesn't go toward the interest, it's going to go toward the payment. So, in the first year, the interest is $450. Why $450? The balance is $5,000. You multiply this by 9%, it's going to give us $450 in interest. Now remember, we are paying $1,285.46. That's the amount that we're paying every year. So of this amount, we're going to deduct the interest out. And what's left, $835, that's going to go toward the principal. Therefore, what's going to happen to the principal? It's going to go from $5,000 minus the $835.46. The principal will become $41.64. Now, year 2, the principal is $41.64. We're going to multiply it by 9%, and that's going to give us $375 rounding. Once again, of the total payment, $375 is interest. This is interest. And the remainder is principal, which is $910. Then the principal goes down and the process repeats itself. Now, if you want to see the process, the best way is to do what? Is to look at the amortization schedule. And the amortization schedule would show you what's going to happen to the loan. So we did work the first payment and the second payment. The third payment is $1,285.46. Once again, we're going to take the loan balance, which is $3253.88 multiplied by 9%, and that's going to give us $292.85 in interest. That's going to be the interest component. My payment is $1,285.46. My interest component is $192.85. What's left is $992.61, and that's going to be the principal. That's going to reduce my principal. Notice the same concept appears again. Your interest payment is going down. Why? Because your balance is going down. Now your balance is not going down as fast as the prior loan. Remember, in the prior loan, the balance is going down by $1,000 every payment. Here the balance is only for the first 3 payments, it's going down by less $1,000. Therefore, notice the interest that you paid on this loan is $1,427 versus the interest on the other loan was only $1,350. Why? Because here the loan is going down much faster in this one. $1,000 every payment. Here the loan is going down at various amounts, but not $1,000. Early on in the loan, it's going down very slower than later on. Eventually, it's going to go down by $5,000, but what matters is the first 3 years. In the first 3 years, you're being charged interest more than you should have. And you could compare the 3 interest payment, those 3 interest payment to the prior schedule, and you will see you are paying more under this loan in interest, especially early on. Okay? So this is why you have this. All right, because the loan balance declined to 0, the 5 annual payment do pay off the loan, of course. Notice that the interest paid decline each period. This is not surprising because the loan balance is going down. Given the total payment is fixed, the principal must be rising each period, of course. The principal paid must be rising. If you compare the 2 amortization in this section, you will see that the total interest is greater for the equal total payments, which I already talked about this. The reason for this is that the loan is repaid more slowly early on. This is what I just said earlier. So the interest is somewhat higher. Of course, this does not mean that one loan is better than the other. It simply means that one is effectively paid off faster than the other. Okay? So for example, this loan, the principal is paid a little bit more slowly early on. That's all what it is. But you're still being charged the effective rate, which happens to be 9%. But this one you're paying it slower, therefore you're being charged interest more. Okay? For example, the principal reduction in the first year is $835 in the equal total payment case as compared to $1,000. Okay, and many websites offer loan amortization schedule. If you're interested in looking at, loan amortization schedule, of course you should be interested in this because at some point you'll always have to take out a loan of some sort, either a car loan, which I don't suggest you do that, never ever, or obviously, hopefully, at some point you are going to buy a house. You want to make sure you know how to calculate the interest on a loan. This is just basically what I want to cover in this session. Also, I don't want you to forget that you can also work an amortization schedule using the spreadsheet. So you could look here and there's the formulas. You could plug in the formulas and see how you could prepare an amortization schedule using a worksheet. You could read the rest of the material. If you have any questions, any comments, by all means, email me or see me in class. But the next session, which is the next chapter we're going to be looking at, is interest rate and bonds. So again, we're going to be dealing with present value calculation, but specifically we're going to be dealing with bonds. What are bonds? How do they work? So on and so forth. And how do we value them? Then we're going to look at stock valuation. If you have any questions, any comments, by all means, email me or see me in class.